Today with Larry Wilson, which I asked him for help about communication because I strongly believe that community is based on communication. Improper communication leads to war, leads to shutdown, frustration, and that's why I asked him for help, because I think some of the chapters in the book and in my future model is going to be communication with the property managers, but also communication between people, because this is the most important thing. Thank you, Larry, that you checked in today after so long day for you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I'm always happy to help you out in any way I can.
Yes. What is the basic thing you think that we have to do while, if you can?
Well,
yeah.
It's interesting.
Yes, please.
It's a very interesting question. First of all, I want to say that I think what you just said is the foundation. You just said that the community is built on communication, and I could not agree more. You are absolutely right. I mean, I go even further. I believe that anything worth having in this life starts with communication. Some people communicate well, most people do not. Even people who speak well sometimes may not be communicating well. And, you know, specifically your interest and the work that you do is a very specific kind of communication, but in my experience, it really bleeds over into all parts of our life. You know, because you know, if the people in your community are not happy, there'll be all kinds of problems. And those problems make more problems. And those problems make more people unhappy. And it feeds on itself, and it becomes worse and worse and worse. So it's very, very important for someone like you to be able to communicate really clearly with all the people you come in contact with. Now, there's some technical things that you do that I'm not as familiar with, but I know you must deal with managers, and you must deal with, I would guess, city officials and government people. These are all different kinds of people, and they all require different kinds of communication. Yes, now I see you've shared your screen here.
Yeah, I just want to add something while we're talking, if you don't mind.
Oh, no, absolutely. I just want to make sure
But if you can, if you'd like to add something, yeah, I mean, please make sure that you can do that. I mean, I'm not here kind of, you know, I'm just, kind of, you know, putting some slides maybe, and that's going to be, let's say, like this, because we're talking about really something which is important.
Well, yes, and I think your slides speak to exactly the kind of work that I do.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, Vlad, because I know that you're a very, very serious man. And I know that the work you're doing is very important for the community. But the slide here that you put up is so true, it's so honest, because obviously we would all like to make money. We would all like to be successful with our business. All of that's good stuff. But this life is made out of the fabric of the relationships we have with other people. And if we don't have that, I feel like we don't have anything. And so the pictures of a happy family together, a mother, a father, their children, this is what matters in life. And your slide is exactly right on the money, that you have to create those lasting relationships for life, and that comes from better communication. Anybody can learn to do it. Anybody. Now, I know that you speak many languages. I know that English is not your first language, but I think you speak English extremely well. I think English is the hardest language of any language to learn. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. It just doesn't make any sense. But I think that you communicate extremely well in English. And I may have said this to you before, I'm not sure, but I think because you are so obviously serious about what you're doing here, that when you speak in English, we listen very carefully to make sure that we understand everything you're saying. I think you are a very, very good communicator. Some people think if you speak quickly, it makes you sound more intelligent. I don't know if that's true, but I don't think you should speak quickly. I think when you speak too quickly, it's hard for anyone speaking any language to hear everything you say, to understand everything, to absorb everything. When you speak slowly and carefully, it conveys a message that what you're saying is important and that you've thought about what you're going to say. You're not just blah, 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 you know, you're saying things that you've thought about that are very important. And in the work that you do, I think it's absolutely essential, because especially if you're dealing with, I think like dealing with government people, you must have to deal with those people, don't you?
Oh yeah, my loveliest one. Today I was dealing with it, thank you for the question. I was waiting very patiently because one of my clients having issues with vagrants. And nevertheless, I sent 2 emails, 3 emails, 4 emails. Finally, they call and they still were hesitating about the information. Mm-hmm. So I want to explain that maybe it's not their problem. I said, no, sweethearts. I know what I'm doing. Please proceed there, because people are getting annoyed by some of the vagrants waking them up, even making fire, which is ridiculous and dangerous. Yeah. Ridiculous and dangerous because of hazard lives and so on and so on. So people really, you have to be persistent, very kind to them, because they don't like any resistance.
Right.
I agree with you. I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
No, I appreciate what you're saying, because you bring up a very important point. Which, I mean, I can't think of anyone who might be harder to communicate with than governmental agencies. Like you say, people in these jobs, sometimes they feel like, I talk to 1 million people a day, I just don't care anymore. Mm-hmm. Well, if you're trying to communicate with them, it becomes your job to make them care. Mm-hmm. And that's not easy to do. Mm-hmm. Especially, maybe more than any other kind of person, government agencies. Mm-hmm. But as you mentioned, it's absolutely necessary to whatever you have to do. And it's interesting because sometimes people try to do things that they think will get through to those people. Sometimes they try and act tough, or they threaten them, or I'm going to make a lot of trouble for you with your boss. These are all not good strategies if you're trying to get something done. With any kind of communication, but especially the government person, if you're trying to get them to do something you need them to do, before you start the communication. If you're speaking on the phone, then before you pick up the phone and dial. If you're writing an email, before you start writing it, you better find out what that person who you're trying to communicate with, what they want. Now, sometimes, if it's a government person, sometimes what they're thinking is everybody they talk to is just one more problem. And they're just thinking, I just want to get all of these problems taken care of so I don't have to think about them. So you should be very clear when you begin a communication that that's their point of view. A lot of people, especially nowadays, I don't know why it is, especially younger people, think that other people should be concerned about how they feel. No one is concerned about how you feel. Unless maybe they love you. Maybe your family does. But maybe even then, not so much. But none of the people you deal with in business, none of the people you deal with in government agencies to do the work that you're doing, none of these people care at all how you feel. And so, if we want to get things from them, we want them to do certain things, we want them to fill out forms, we want them to deliver documents, whatever it is we want, we better find out what they want first so that we are aligned with the same purpose they have. Because this will prevent any kind of argument or fighting. Forget about your problem. You know, it's funny, I haven't thought of this in a million years. You know, I worked a lot with Sammy Davis Jr. And towards the very end of his life, I worked with him at Harrah's in Lake Tahoe and Reno. And he had had his hip replaced. Now this is a guy who's an incredible dancer, incredible tap dancer. And now he had to walk with a cane because his hip hurt so much. But I'd be there backstage with him and he'd walk right up to the curtain with this cane and then he'd drop it before he walked on stage and he'd look like he wasn't in pain at all. And I asked him later, I said, what's that all about, Mr. D? And he just said, nobody cares about your pain. And he wasn't mad about it. It was just a fact. He was an entertainer. The audience didn't care if he was in pain. They didn't care about that. They paid money. They came to see him entertain. They wanted to hear him sing and dance. They knew from reading magazines and seeing television, they know that he'd had a hip replacement. They didn't care about that. And of course, he's right. If we get into communication with somebody expecting them to be concerned about us, your mother may be concerned, your father may be concerned. I'm not sure anybody else is really concerned. Your very closest friends may be concerned, but it's a very small group of people who are concerned. And if you go into communication with people thinking that, it's going to be very difficult, very frustrating, and make it very hard for you. If instead you approach them, maybe you have to do some homework, maybe you have to talk to some people, maybe you find out from someone what is it they want. What they want, maybe they want to get all these problems off their desk. Maybe somebody else is only concerned about budgets. Maybe they have a budget and everybody they talk to, they're worried, oh God, this is going to be more money out of my budget. So someone like that, you want to find a way to let them know right away that you're not asking for anything that's going to affect their budget. Because if you do that, they're really going to pay attention to what you have to say. Because that's all they're worried about. Maybe it's somebody else who's worried that they have to fill out certain forms or something, depending on what you tell them. Again, if you're able to communicate very quickly the thing that they're afraid of, or the thing that they don't want to hear about, that doesn't involve you, you're going to get much more cooperation from them. And then, of course, also, there's in the training that I do, there's a lot of very fundamental stuff. You know that I am a big proponent of eye contact. I think it's extremely important to look directly at people when you're talking to them. So many of us in life, we feel like other people don't see us. We feel like they don't hear us. So if we have an opportunity where someone looks right at us, and when they talk to us, we can tell by the things they're saying if they're really listening to us. Mm-hmm. If, you say to me, well, Larry, I have a lot of problems with these people up here because it gets so cold in this area. If I just keep talking about how much I love the summer and it's so warm, it's very clear to you that I'm not listening to you. If instead I say, oh, well, that's a very specific set of problems where it's cold, now it makes you feel so much better right away, because you feel like, oh, yeah, he heard me, he's listening to me. And if I'm looking at you, then it's even better. Now you start to have some genuine connection with somebody. And when you start to do that, you'll be amazed at the things that start to happen. Things that used to be hard for you may suddenly become much easier for you. Much easier. But I have rambled on and on here. I'm not sure if I answered the question that you were asking.
Yeah, Larry, actually you mentioned it, and I think that it's, I think this is the important stuff, because you're right, if you're not paying attention to exactly what you're talking about, you're not looking people in the camera or whatever, especially, and if you're not, I think I remember your big three is always also to try to smile, because otherwise, it's only waste of time, which is one of the things which I am kind of, fighting for, because since I remember the Celebrity Cruise Line, I was struggling with that, because I think that this is the most important thing, Laurie. Yes, the most important thing here.
I think it is. And it's interesting what you say about a smile. Over the years, Vlad, I've worked at a lot of big resort places like Las Vegas, where they have gambling. And I only work like an hour a night, so I had a lot of extra time.
Wow.
And so I played a lot of poker. And I sometimes was playing with players who were much, much better players than I was. And I was able to learn a lot from them. And they sort of, I think they sort of found me interesting, but they knew I wasn't a good player. And so sometimes they would get something to eat. They go, you want to come with us? I go, yeah. And they'd start talking about stuff. And so I learned a lot, and I became a much better player. But I learned a lot from them. Now, one guy that I played with, I don't know if it's true or not, this is what they told me, is that he was a FBI agent.
Wow.
And he looked like he could have been, so maybe it's true. But he said that in his experience, and he didn't say what that experience was, he said, when you're interrogating someone, if they smile, you can tell instantly whether they're telling the truth or lying. Because if they're telling the truth, their smile will be even. It will be symmetrical. But if they're lying, it will be uneven. It'll be sort of, you know, like where it's not even. And I thought, wow, is that really true? They said, oh yeah. And at the poker table, I would see them do it all the time. They would make a joke or they would tease someone. They're trying to get someone to react. And I could see sometimes someone would smile and it would be an authentic smile that was balanced and even.
Mm-hmm.
And these really good players would throw their hand away. They wouldn't play that hand because they knew that person had a really good hand. But if they said, are you trying to tell me you have a full house? And the guy would go, yes. And it was this uneven smile. They'd sort of go, I call. And then they'd find out the guy was bluffing because he didn't have a good hand. And they'd win the pot. I saw it over and over and over again. This is a very important skill, I think, for us to take advantage of this. When we're talking to people, and the reason I've said it to you before is because I've seen you smile when you genuinely enjoyed something or thought it was funny. And, you know, I don't think any other animal does this except humans. When we smile, it communicates an unspoken message that I mean you no harm. It's not, if you're going to fight someone, if you're going to attack someone, you aren't smiling.
No.
Right? And so when we first meet you and we don't know, are you a good guy? Are you a bad guy?
Mm-hmm.
If you can genuinely smile at us. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to smile because you think it's so great to meet this person, but maybe you could picture something in your head.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I do a thing I call pre-framing,
Mm-hmm.
Or pre-visualizing sometimes before I'm going into meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And this might be useful, I don't know, but if you're going to go into a meeting with someone who you don't really know, but you have to present stuff or you have to ask them for something, pardon me, or you have to, I don't know, who knows what you may have to do. Before I go in, I'll sit quietly by myself and in my mind, I'll just visualize the meeting going great. I'll visualize all the people there smiling. I'll visualize everybody happy. Mm-hmm. And everyone going, oh yeah, this will be easy. We can take care of this easy. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how much that will change the meeting when I do that before going in. Mm-hmm. And I think part of it may be that I come in and my face and body are reflecting that kind of feeling that I have. And I come in and I say, hi, I'm very pleased to meet you. I'm Larry Wilson, or whatever it is I'm saying. Thank you for taking the time. But something about me is giving off an energy that seems like I'm there only for good. I'm not there to make trouble. I'm not there to fight with anyone. I'm not there to make anyone feel bad, you know? And a smile is where it all begins. It's so easy to do. I don't think you should try to practice a fake smile. No. I think you can always tell if it's a fake smile. But I think if you think of something that makes you feel good, that makes you feel like smiling. Now, maybe it's a joke that you heard once. Maybe it's a picture of someone who's very dear to you, you know? Mm-hmm. I'll tell you a joke that it won't make any sense to anyone. Mm-hmm. But when my son was very young, my son, because of course he grew up with me and his mother, and we're both very interested in language. My son is very interested in language. And I don't know what started this, but we were on some trip someplace, and he was trying to say that he was a famous writer and a famous singer.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I said, really, who are you? He said, I'm Andy William Shakespeare. Now, the reason this is funny to me, Andy Williams was an American singer who, from many years ago, was very famous. And William Shakespeare, of course, is a famous writer. And so he combined their names. I'm not even sure he knew that he was doing it, but he combined Andy Williams and William Shakespeare into Andy William Shakespeare.
Wow.
And that made me laugh out loud. I thought that was so great. And my wife was laughing out loud. And to this day in our family, this is when he was like 5 or 6 years old. If I need to have a lighter mood or lighter appearance, if I need to smile before going, all I have to do is think Andy William Shakespeare. And the only danger is that I may laugh out loud when I think of it. To this day, it still doesn't. And he's got a million things like that. And so that's all I have to think about. But I'm sure everyone you know has something, a memory of some special event or a special moment or a special friend, something that will bring a smile to their face. And it's there you go. It's so easy to do and so powerful, you know. And that's why I keep, bugging you about it, because I've seen you. As soon as you smile, you light up, all this light comes pouring out of you, and that's powerful stuff. Very powerful stuff.
I can give you one name now to laugh. Vladimir Christov. It doesn't sound right something here, yeah?
Yes.
Or Vladimir Wilson. Yeah.
Vladimir Wilson.
Yeah.
I like Christov.
Christoph is tough. Yeah, I know. It's tough. Yeah, are you coming? Oh, you said you're coming, yeah? You're coming.
Oh, on the 23rd and 24th.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm asking my colleagues too, but really it's nice to have some kind of opportunity. We'll see whether they're gonna understand the meaning or they're gonna think it's only to pitch. Because you're right. The smiling, the invitation, the pitch is important, but I really want to help people because I think that it's amazing that only the presence and even doing nothing, just listening and communicating, that's it. Yeah, you really helped me to understand that, and it's very important. I hear the people when they want attention, and when you listen to them. This is the second thing. The listening is the key. As in other training up here, you have 1 month and 2 years. Use them proportionately.
I like that. I've never heard that, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Joel knows that because this is from Kevin Trudeau.
It's absolutely true. I mean, and it's also funny, Vlad. It's so easy. I've worked with a lot of famous people, and there's a Academy Award-winning actor. Actually, the other day when I was thinking about it, I realized I know quite a few people who've won Academy Awards. But there's an Academy Award-winning actor who's no longer with us. He passed away a few years ago. His name was Carl Malden. and he won an Academy Award for Streetcar Named Desire with Marlon Brando, and On the Waterfront, also with Marlon Brando. You know, amazing actor, amazing actor. And I asked him once, sometimes I would throw out these questions to him that were just out of nowhere, because it would just pop into my head. And I said something to him about, you know, what's the main difference between good actors and bad actors? And he said, bad actors, if they're in a scene with you, if you're talking, they're just waiting for their chance when they talk. He said, good actors are listening to the other actor. They're really listening to what they're saying, even if they've heard it 1,000 times. I mean, he performed on Broadway for years and years in different shows. And so you might do a show, 8 shows a week on Broadway. You might do it for years. So after the first year, you know every single line that everyone's going to say. So the real skill is to be listening like you've never heard this before. And to really be, I don't know what you're going to say. And then when you say it, to take it in and hear it. And once he told me this, it was so obvious when I started watching films. I could see the good actors and the bad actors. You could see these actors who weren't listening at all. You could just see on their face.
Of course.
And I know you see this in real life too. You're talking to someone and you can tell they aren't listening to you. They're waiting for their chance to start talking. This is not good communication, right?
Yes, Larry, I agree with you. I agree.
You know, when the other person is talking, we want to hear them because it makes them know that we see them. You're not invisible. I see you. I'm listening to you. It doesn't mean I have to agree with you. It doesn't mean I have to say, oh, you're right. But I see you. And people, I think, get confused about this too. They think, oh, if I want someone to, you know, feel good about what I'm doing, I should just agree and go, oh, yes. Oh, yeah, you're very smart. You don't have to do that. But you have to make them know that they aren't invisible. You have to make them feel that you really see them and hear them. And if you do, all kinds of amazing things can happen. Among them is the possibility that someone who disagrees with you may change their mind.
It happens.
Absolutely. Absolutely can happen. And a lot of times people sometimes argue. They don't know why they're arguing. Sometimes it's an automatic response. You say black and they say white. You say up and they say down. You say hot, they say cold. They just jump. Whatever you say, they're going to argue, right?
Yeah.
When you start to show them by the way you listen to them and the way you respond, that you hear them and you respect what they're saying, they may suddenly feel like they don't have to argue. Maybe they can start listening to you also and hear what you have to say. And sometimes you can have truly astonishing transformations where people who you thought were going to put up a big struggle suddenly are very reasonable and willing to work with you, you know? Pardon me.
Yes, Larry. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah, it makes me think about making people visible, never ignore them, smile whenever you can, but genuinely, not fakely, which I hated from the get-go when I started working for celebrity. Smile. And then it's actually no. They said the smile should come from here. From here it should come, from abdominal, how it's called.
Yes, abdominal.
Abdominal, yeah. Because then it's a real smile. And that's why.
Right.
That's why when I'm serious, I'm serious. I mean, I give some critics that I don't smile so often, but it's a culture, it's a mindset, it's sometimes overthinking. But yeah, if you want to pass the message to smile whenever you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't, it's funny. Sometimes when I've been in countries where I don't speak the language, I found if I smile, people are more willing to help me.
Mm-hmm.
They can tell I don't speak the language. But instead of looking angry or frustrated, if I'm sort of like, is there someone here who can tell me where the hotel is or how to find the bus to get to the hotel? They may not understand me. They know I don't understand them. But you never know where someone will find someone who speaks a little English and who comes and says, oh, hotel? Yes, hotel. I mean, it's universal. It will work anywhere,
You're so humble, and I never expect that if you didn't share your kind of expertise and experience that working with so many people so long time, and I never see your name on the screen or on Academy Award winners. So yeah, people like you are kind of sometimes passing by, and the big names think that we assume and perceived as a value as a leaders, they are not.
Well, it's funny because the mentor that you and I both share, Joel Bauer,
yeah,
when he was talking with me and he started to hear some of the people I work with, he said, oh my God, he said, you have to tell people about this. And I thought, really? He said, yes. And I thought, I don't think of them as famous. Mm-hmm. I just think of them as people. And most of them have been very nice to me. Mm-hmm. There have been a few who weren't. I just don't talk about those, the ones who weren't. But I don't, to me, they're just like you, Mm-hmm. I'm just as likely to say, oh, I have to get off the phone because I have a Zoom consult with Vladimir Christov, That's the same thing to me, I mean, I guess I sort of divide the world into people I like and people I don't like. And there aren't that many people I don't like, but ones who, for whatever reason, I don't get along with, I try not to spend too much time with.
Actually, I confirm, sorry to interrupt you, confirm what you're saying from today's lecture. I mean, subconsciously, when a person starts to attack, he says, I'm going to share this, I'm going to share that to the board members. And I said, my advice is don't do that. Even you're right about that they deny you to hear you and deny your position, you're going to shut them down. You're just going to shut them down. There are 6-7 people, volunteers, coming extra time for you to listen, blah, 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 blah. Just be nice and say, hey, I don't think you're right, guys. Please consider my proposal. Bye. If you were so angry, there are lawyers. I'm going to give you names of lawyers, $500 per hour. If you wish, my friend, go ahead. That's why I said,
You're absolutely right, Vlad. And sometimes I will say to people in these situations, I will say, what's more important to you? Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? If you're trying to get this thing done and you making a big fight because you're right is going to make all this trouble, is that what you want? I don't think so.
Nobody wants that.
Wouldn't you rather not make a big deal and get the thing you want so that you have a happy life, right? But it's funny because I know a woman who's actually very sweet, and she's very funny, but she can be very stubborn. And we were talking about something like this. She was in some argument with somebody, maybe it was her husband, I don't know, whatever it was. And I just said to her, I said, yeah, you're right, but do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And she said, I want to be right. And I said, okay, all right. Just so long as you understand that what you're saying is you don't value being happy as much as you value being right. So, okay, everybody makes their own choices, you know?
Even I heard another phrase from, I think that Joe knows the guy. He's called Marshall Silver. He said, I don't want to be right, I want to be rich. But
that's the same idea, yeah.
But the same idea, because rich in what? Rich in a relationship, rich in happiness, rich in
sure.
nice experiences, rather than deprived from that. Because we think that, oh, we are right. And actually, I've heard also from another gentleman, because I've been to some events here in Vancouver. He says the biggest disease is I'm right. This is the biggest disease in the world. I'm right.
Well,
it's not the cancer, not the heart attack, nothing. It's I'm right. And if you start thinking about it, yeah, it is.
I can see his point. It's not good for us, you know.
No.
It is not good for us.
No.
And you know, this is also why in the training that I do, I say to people that before you initiate a phone call, or before you write an email, or before you send a text, take a moment to think what your goal really is. Because I don't want you to get trapped in that thing of, I'm right. That's not going to get you anything. Think about what my goal is, I would like them to change the ruling for this thing so that I can have a better experience, whatever it is. So if you stop and think about that clearly, then when you speak or write, that's in your mind top, at the absolute top. So that when you're choosing the words of what you're going to say or what you're going to write, they're chosen based on, is that going to get me what my goal is? Because that's what matters, right? You know, I mean, if you, like you say, if you wind up not getting what you wanted, but at least you know you're right, it's a waste of time. Terrible waste of time.
I wish to spend another 4 hours with you.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Larry. Maybe another time we can get in touch again, if you're willing.
Of course.
Yeah.
Anytime.
And also we have time in the June event. Yes, really.
Oh yeah.
Actually, I saw your webinar. Yeah, the 3 principles. Nice. Always be honest, smile, and look in the eyes. And it's really nice to have this. About communication is a very depth water. And it's a mastery which obviously you, Joe, and people who didn't think you were training the whole life. They know how to persuade and how to. Actually, it's not persuasion; it's actually a reversal. You're pulling the people to you without.
That's what I think.
Seductive, but in a positive way. As I said, comment, because seduction also, in my mind, is something more physical, but actually could be a soul essential.
Sure, of course.
Let's put it like this: soul seduction. I like that. Yeah. I like that because there is no any second agenda there. It's only agenda.
Right. You know, it's funny, Vlad. This life it's beautiful, and it's mysterious, and it's confusing, and it's surprising. There's a lot of things going on all the time. And the longer you live, hopefully, the more you learn. And you learn by making mistakes. And then you say, oh, that didn't work. I'm not going to do that anymore. And if you get as old as you and me, then hopefully you have some wisdom that you've learned by making mistakes. You've learned some things that do work for you. And the more you learn, I think, the more you realize that there's no reason to be afraid of other people. There's no reason, all those things that we worry about. Oh,
That's not totally.
Just the idea that people worry sometimes, oh, are they going to be smarter than me? Or am I going to be taken advantage of? Or am I going to be able to handle this? The truth is, we're all the same, you know? We all want the same things, really. Yes, people say, oh, I want a fancy car, I want an expensive house. But really, what we all want is to have close relationships with people we love, and to be safe, and for the people we love to be safe. That's really all we all want. And if you keep that in mind, it makes a lot of your interactions a lot easier with people. At least that's what my experience has been.
So true, Larry. Thank you for your time today. I owe you
My pleasure.
I owe you a lot as always, because your level of teaching is high level. Hopefully,
Well,
one day I can do that. The same with my mentees and students and friends. Of course, that's my goal, because community is so crucially important. People do not understand it, deprive it, underestimate it.
I suspect you're already doing it, Vlad.
Yeah. And
I suspect you already.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Larry. Yeah. I'm sorry that I have to finish.
No, that's fine.
My wife
It's
still needs some attention. She heard
Of course.
I take my time, and really this is a very valuable lesson to think about how to present the stuff and how to communicate with people properly, because sometimes I caught myself kind of being frustrated and not paying attention.
Well, we all feel like, oh, we don't have enough time, we've got to hurry, we've got to do. I'm like that too. I mean, that's just part of being human. But if we take a moment to just take a breath, you know, just to take a breath and realize, you know what, I have a few extra seconds here, you know. And with that in mind, we shouldn't keep your wife waiting.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
So I will. I look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks in Los Angeles.
Yeah. How many
It'll be great.
How many people you might bring, or you don't know yet? I invited.
I'm sorry.
How many people you are intending?
Oh, I don't know. I've invited quite a few. I don't know if any of them have signed up yet.
The same with me. I invited 2 people at least, to people from Celebrity when we were together over 10 years ago. So I hope they're gonna come, and we're gonna kind of see each other, and they have their business. So I am believing that it might help them a lot if they really take it seriously. If you don't take it seriously, so I don't want to engage them again.
Right.
But that's
but remember,
Joe says. I mean, you cannot convince them. You cannot make them do that. If they don't want, they don't want.
Right. It's not your responsibility. Your only responsibility is to offer it. And then if they accept, whatever they do with it is up to them. You know, they'll decide. They'll decide what they're going to do. So
final question is: do you mind if I share this with the group, or you want to be private?
Always. I always am happy
I'm
to.
not sure who's gonna watch it so long, but it's so much powerful. I'm sure tomorrow I'm gonna rewatch it and see for some glitches. But while I was kind of playing with the screens and listening, I want to re-listen one more time what you were saying, because this is vitally important, especially the tone of voice that you speak slowly and not quickly. Because when you speak quickly, the frustration rises up.
Yes, absolutely. And it's not just you, Vlad. I think all of us feel frustrated when someone speaks to us very quickly. Yeah. I think, I don't know whether some people think that makes them seem smarter. If they're, look, Vlad, I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen here. What's going to happen. It doesn't. It doesn't. What it sounds to me is like you're trying to sell me something. When someone talks like the machine gun, it feels like you're trying to sell me something.
Absolutely.
And in the same way, when someone tries to explain something that's so complicated, I always think, how can anything be that complicated? Right?
Absolutely.
It's like, right? It's like the greatest things in this life are very simple and easy to explain.
Yeah.
So, right? So, if you're trying to explain something and it's so, I think, oh, that's supposed to make me feel like I'm not smart enough to understand.
Oh.
Well,
good luck with somebody else.
yeah, it doesn't, that has no effect on me.
Oh.
I think maybe I'm not smart enough. Doesn't matter. I still think what I think.
People are not stupid. This one final thing which I want to share with you. You know it probably. I've learned from again this club which I was. In everybody here in the brand, there's amygdala, and they say this is the coach leader, the horse coach leader, of the brain. It's small, but it's very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And nevertheless, you are stupid, clever, whatever, you child, non-child. It always gives you the signals when somebody's lying.
It's interesting.
You can, of course, it depends what kind of food you eat.
Hmm?
Because you can lose it. I mean, slowly. If it's calcium, too much calcium, it can kind of freeze, frozen, and then actually like a shield. Then you can be manipulated very easily. But if you have it, if you develop it somehow, and if you always relate to other people, then as you said, you start feel, oh, doesn't sound right. Oh, he's saying it, but something is not in order.
Right.
And then you can catch the lie or misleading or exaggeration
or even if you aren't sure what it is.
Also, yeah, it can protect your life.
Right.
Because they can talk you a lot of stuff, and then you can say, okay, but why I'm still so suspicious? Why I don't get it?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely right. I enjoy every time I talk with you, Vlad.
Same. Right.
I always enjoy it, and anytime, anything I can do, I hope you will ask.
Sorry that we're living in different cities, but it's not so big deal. We have a computer.
No, I mean, 10 years ago, we couldn't have done this.
By the way, yeah, you're right.
I mean,
wasn't here at all.
This is pretty amazing stuff,
Yeah.
This is sort of like science fiction stuff,
For me also, yeah, I mean, people don't know it. I mean, a few people know it. And I said, guys, I mean, this is the future. Even with our business, it's much easier for me to make such a contact.
Oh yeah.
And then it's recorded. Even it's easier for me to write the minutes and stuff, rather than going on site, driving, tired, and then writing, and then you skip something or you didn't spell it right, and hard feelings and accusations and stuff. Why? we're gonna come slowly. We should go through.
It's
Yeah,
right,
process.
but this is, like you say, this is the future. This really is the future.
Who wants to come together in one room to smell your body odor or stuff? Maybe you want to be naked. I don't know.
That's right. That's right.
You close the camera and then you speak. Yeah, whatever.
That's right.
I am so busy now watching the new movie. Come on.
That's right. Maybe I have a sandwich here that I want to eat. So.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, that's the beauty of this journey. Nobody's equal to the other. Everybody's different. Otherwise, you're going to be very monotonous and boring life.
It'd be terrible. It'd be horrible. It's much better this way.
Thank you, Larry. If I can help with something, next time is my turn to give you some ideas. Maybe with PowerPoint or something. I'm not a specialist expert.
Okay.
I can tell you what I'm using, but everything is in the module. But still, even today, I saw so many questions, and some of them I know the answer. Some of them Joe jumps in, and of course that's his baby, so he knows much more. And that's the thing. Okay, Larry. See you soon.
All right.
See you soon.
Yes. Please give my very best to your wife.
Oh, of course I will. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, bro. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Betcha. Thank you. Thank you, Larry. Thank you.